The NFL stands for not for long.
Set, Sharga and Armstead. Roll out, Walker still running out. Looks to the left, wide open, Thompson touchdown. Colin Thompson with the touchdown. There was nobody within 20 yards.
What a catch off the bobble. Colin Thompson scoops it up.
Lofting corner, the end zone. It is caught for the touchdown. The first NFL touch for Colin Thompson is a score.
What's up, everybody? Hope everybody had an awesome weekend. Lots going on in the sports world. NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs have been great. I'll be admit, Jack, I have been watching. Have you been watching the NBA playoffs? I know that's probably a dumb question.
Of course I have. What kind of question is that?
I know. It is dumb. It's a dumb question, is it not? But it's been good, man. This Knicks team, fun to watch. Good teams that play team-friendly games are in. The new era of basketball, I think, is coming in here, too. You're seeing some of these younger players, which has been fun for me. That's been in and out. You've seen them all, but for a guy like in and out, it's been fun. I will say. Now, the NHL playoffs have been better, but it's been good. Any highlights stick out to you, Jack?
No, the East is sort of shaping up to be a bit of a disappointment from a playoff perspective. It's a shame. Like, the Knicks have been fun, but they're legitimately running on fumes. Right now, they're down to like a 6-man rotation. They're tied up with Indy. Indy has tied the whole thing back up, but it just feels like anybody from of those three teams between them and Cleveland is just sort of fodder for Boston until they get to the finals. But even then, Boston, as top heavy as they are, I mean, their bench is solid too, but it's just they are very underwhelming. So kind of the consensus, at least in my mind, is whoever makes it out of the West is going to win this thing. And whoever makes it out of the West is pretty much whoever wins Minnesota, Denver is kind of what it seems like at this point. Oklahoma City's all right, but they're just young. They need reps. Dallas is sort of in a similar situation. New York was just Luka is just losing steam. Who knows if he can power through, but it's a heavyweight battle between Minnesota and Denver, which has been electrifying to watch. And whoever wins there is going to win the whole thing.
Chris Manhertz is joining us today. That's the great Jack Connell. A little NBA minute. NHL has been great too, man. If you're looking for something to dive into the NHL playoffs. So much fun to watch. The fighting is out of control and the intensity is out of control. I love it. Chris Manhertz, I mentioned, will be joining us today. Chris and I played together the Carolina Panthers for the 2020 season, and he was a huge mentor to me as a player. He's one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL. He's got a fantastic story. This is someone who never played football, never put his hand in the dirt ever until he played in the NFL. Remarkable. Chris is a remarkable human being. We nicknamed him the Gov because this is a guy who can run for like president, mayor, governor. He's just an elite human being from a personality standpoint, genuine, giving, caring, tough, great teammate, great man, great father, carries himself a certain way. And you'll see it in the pod. Chris and I were able to do the NFL broadcast media boot camp together, got paired together in a lot of things last year. So that was great. Chris is looking for his next thing. He talked about his family. We talked about his journey. We talked about Big Blue and the Giants. We talked about all the teams he's played for, Jacksonville, Carolina, New Orleans, Buffalo. Great dude. And Denver last year, it's on a nice little deal out there. It's on a nice little deal in Jack. So he's made some money in this league. He's played in this league. And I think you'll enjoy the show. Speaking of enjoying the show, Arnicare, we know it. You love it. Arnicare gel by Boiron relieves muscle pain, stiffness, swelling from injuries and bruises. The homeopathic medicine scientifically formulated with Arnica, unscented, non-greasy. The gel is cooling and quickly absorbed into skin. Benefits, scientifically formulated with Arnica, a plant-powered active ingredient. No traditional strong medicine smell, free of fragrances, dyes. Place is awesome. The product is awesome. They're fantastic to work with. And we've been blessed to have some of their guests on our show, and I get to use some of their products that they've sent my way. I bought some products as well. I use a pain relieving gel, and I used all of the good stuff they have for sinus relief, particular their allergy meds, because it's that time of year, right? Jack's out back mowing the lawn, blowing the weeds around, and it's a nightmare, right? So again, shout out to Arnicare by Boiron by Arnicare, our friends. They're just fantastic people. And I'm all over the place, Jack. It's Arnicare by Boiron here. My mind's spinning. I've been traveling. I've been working. We've been in Cape May. I have a huge presentation tonight, which I'm really excited for. I run the 501c3, the Viking mission for Archbishop Wood High School. And we have our first meeting, which I'm really excited for. So that is on my mind. I will not lie to you today. But Chris Myrick's on my mind. Chris Manhertz. Holy cow, Colin. I mean, we may have to restart the show. I'm not going to, though, because this is just real life today. Life is in the way. Jack, I went to join a gym here to get in the sauna. So I worked out. I thought the saunas always work there. I work out. The sauna doesn't work. Great. I go to New Hope to get a haircut. I go to the place I usually go get it. They're open on Tuesdays. They were closed. I looked across the street. There's another barbershop. Got a great cut there. Forgot to pay for my parking. Got a parking ticket. Came home. I'm doing a podcast before this. Prepping for the show. Shout out to Fair but Firm with Larry Flowers. I ordered DoorDash. The DoorDash guy goes by, does not speak any English, and he's down the block. And I got to pause the show, run down the block a quarter mile to grab the DoorDash in bare feet and run all the way back up the hill. So it's just been a wild day. Hopefully the ball bounces my way tonight and we can have a great meeting and I can focus. So sorry for wasting everybody's time there. Again, shout out to our friends at Boiron, at Arnicare. Shout out to our friends, the original Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com. I hope everyone had an awesome Mother's Day. I sent my mom some fudge, some sweet treats. Really great way to bring somebody for summer that can't get to the Jersey Shore. Send them a box of fudge, saltwater taffy, fudgekitchens.com. All right, guys, a few things to talk about, not a lot, and we're going to send it over. First and foremost, as usual, let me restart this because I want to make sure I have time to really articulate this because this sport, man, they just get in their own way. First and foremost, as usual, the NCAA, women's college lacrosse, coaches, administrations, front office, whoever it may be, the people that are involved in running women's lacrosse, they drop the ball. My wife played women's lacrosse at the University of Florida. I love the sport. I support the sport. Those girls work their ass off to get notoriety, recognition, grow the game. So I don't know who's responsible for this. I'm assuming the NCAA because they usually have their fingerprints on things that do not go right. But there's 4 games left, right? This coming week. They're in the quarterfinals. And they have an opportunity to put these games in prime time and grow the game. Grow the game. That's the mantra. They have games on a Thursday at noon. On a Thursday at 2:30. With big lacrosse brands. University of Florida versus Maryland. Noon. People are in school. You're trying to get kids to these games to become future lacrosse players. You're trying to get recruits to these games so they can go play at other places. You're trying to get families and entertainment and grow the game locally. It's a grassroots game. It's really not a TV game. I'm sorry. But get the fans there. That's what it's all about. And to put a game at noon on a Thursday where people have to work, people are in school. How do you expect little girls to become the next Taylor Cummings? How do you expect little girls to become the next Michelle Tumalo or whoever that were great players because they saw the game and had mentors and looked up to people? You have to do it. You have to find a way to connect the youth to older players, to big brands like these playing. Syracuse Yale plays at 2:30. Yale's made an amazing run. People are going to be working at 2:30. And then 5 o'clock, Michigan, Boston College. Okay, I get that. And then Penn, Northwestern. I'm assuming Northwestern's going to blow them out. And that'll be on ESPNU at 7:30. So I get it. All these games are going to be on ESPNU, and that's really cool. And they're trying to grow the game through vision. I'm sure they're getting paid more by sponsors, and I understand all that. And maybe I should stick to football. But you're trying to grow it, and just another way for people to step on their toes and not grow the game. So that's kind of what bothered me. And I'm trying to get to the game Thursday, but I can't have work. It's noon on a Thursday. So it's not going to happen. And then lastly, the bar of the week this week on the Colin Thompson Show, presented by Fudge Kitchen, the Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com. I got to redo that, Jack. I mean, I'm just absolute toast today. My mind's everywhere. My battery's about to die on my computer. The bar of the week this week, brought to you by the original Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com, shipping fudge and sweet treats across the country. The Mad Batter in Cape May, New Jersey. This place is historic. It's been around for decades. Great local servers, great local bartenders. Shout out to my boy, Matt Danzy. It's an awesome place. Took mom there for Mother's Day, for brunch. Great bar, great service, great high top tables around the bar. A little railing there is really cool. They have big space, seating in the front, outside, seating out back. It's an awesome environment. Great Benedicts, great omelets, great sandwiches. You name it, they have it. And like I said, it's a local spot on Sunday. Primarily, it is awesome to hang out in there. They've had some live music in there before. Great little TVs tucked away in the corner. So for me, bar of the week this week on the Colin Thompson Show has to be the Mad Batter. Shout out to everyone there taking great care of all the locals in Cape May on a consistent basis for decades. So I stumbled on myself today, Jack, on my best effort. I'm starving. I'm ready to eat. I worked out and did not eat. I'm dying. So all the little things that I do usually, Jack, today are all haywire. So I'm going to bring it back in. I'm going to do some Zen. I'm going to do some food. I'm going to, get cleaned up, ready to go, and then present tonight. So apologies, Zach. I didn't deliver today, buddy. Apologies.
Shame.
You look like Farva today with the mustache, by the way.
Thank you. I feel like I get told that every day by you. So
A little Smokey the Bear type of look. Look good, Jack. Look good. Jack is single, everybody. All right, we'll wrap things up. He's a free agent, folks. So any girls out there, all right, never mind. This is a he's pissed. And he just said the F-bomb on there. All right, so that's it. A little lacrosse nugget. What are you doing, NCAA? Make it a better way to grow the game. Get more eyeballs on it locally. Noon on a Thursday. Are you kidding me? And that's the bar of the week. We'll send it over to Chris Manhertz, good friend. Special shout out to our friends over at Arnicare and the original Fudge Kitchen for sponsoring the show. I hope everyone has a great rest of the week. All right. We got the legendary Chris Manhertz joining us today. Chris and I played together 2020, 2021, Chris?
Yep.
Those 2 years, I came in the room as an XFL opinionated, talkative, wanted to mess around a lot, wanted to have fun, took football seriously, and I learned pretty quick Chris is dead serious and professional, but fun and a great teammate and friend. It's great to have you on the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me, brother.
We had some fun, man. We had some good times. It was a great room. Gio Ricci, it wasn't a big room. The first day, it was COVID. Okay, that's a COVID year. Let's take everybody back here. 2020. So we had OTAs away. We had training camp. Remember the first 2 weeks we were in the hotel room.
Yep.
I would run the steps in the morning in the hotel. And then the day before training camp, I'm like, maybe I should go for a run around the city. And I rolled both of my ankles running through Charlotte.
Golly. I didn't know that.
I'm like, well, here we go. I'm slow anyways, Chris, and I move like shit. That made it even worse. I'm like, this is a nightmare. You kidding me? It's my one shot to get back in the league. We had a great room, and Brian Angelico, tight end coach, who's one of a kind, and Lombardi and a great group of guys. But it was the active roster on day one were you and Ian only. I got cut. Same with Gio. They brought me back to the active, and then we only had 3 tight ends the whole year. Yep. It was crazy.
It was a fun group, though. I mean, looking back, it was really it was an environment where we obviously got stuff done. We were diligent about our work as a group, but we had fun at the same time. So
we had a lot of success too, like the duo stuff, the play action stuff. You got paid off of it, which is awesome. That was great. Ian got paid off of it, which is awesome. Gio's career got started because of it. My career was at the midpoint. Mm-hmm. So if you look at it that way, it was great. And then Sully came in that next year. You were there with Sully or no?
No, I wasn't there with Sully.
Yes, Sully came in the next year, and it was like, all right, this is what Chris does. Like, Chris is the guy in the room for those listening. Like, okay, this is what Chris does. You can try to do it. You can't do it. Chris is really smart and has great gifts, and we're going to get in some of those gifts because let's go back. You're a basketball player from New York City. You're not a football player from Eastern Pennsylvania like I was. Like, everything I did, every fundamental, every lift was to be a football player. Like, take me back, like, to your days. Like, did you ever think growing up playing hoops and high school basketball and getting recruited on the AAU circuit that you would find yourself in the NFL?
Not a shot. That wasn't even something on my radar prior to the age of 22, the opportunity getting introduced to me. So it was something that, obviously I heard growing up, maybe you should try football, you should do this. But I was so wrapped around basketball. I was so in love with basketball, and obviously basketball, presented a lot of opportunities for me to earn an education, go to college, do things like that. I didn't really have the bandwidth for anything else beyond basketball at that point.
That's crazy, man. And to go back to your childhood, your parents are from
From the Bronx.
Yep.
Both my parents immigrants from Jamaica.
Yep.
We were born and raised in the Bronx. Ironically, probably about 30 minutes away from where I work now with the Giants. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, really good childhood. I grew up with 3 brothers. We all played sports. We were all involved in sports at some capacity, whether it be basketball or football. And that kind of carried us throughout our lives, just staying busy, doing the right things growing up. So it definitely occupied a lot of our time.
The AAU circuit, the high school basketball circuit, let me take this back, because I think the mecca of high school basketball is Philadelphia, and I know it's not, though. It's New York. But it's really strong in Philly, as you know, too. And I realized when I played in the Philadelphia Catholic League that has like Roman Catholic and St. Joe's Prep, and I'm forgetting all the teams now that are really good. Newman Goretti, Carroll, like all these really loaded teams. I went down in the city. I was a freshman playing JV, little varsity time when blowout, garbage time. I was a solid big man I played so many sports, right? In basketball, you can't. You really got to focus on hoops if you want to shoot and be good from the foul line. Like you have to play. So we go down to the city, and it was always a big deal because 30, 40-minute drive, and you get like cheesesteaks at Pat's and Geno's, because all the teams we played were like from Center City or South Philly. So you know me, Chris, I'm an eater. I love that part. But we went down there and we played Newman Goretti, and this kid, I think he was going to be the next Michael Jordan, this big lefty. He was like a 6'7" freshman. Mm-hmm. I was like 6'3" at the time, probably 210, whatever, just off the football field, like trying to be physical and like just getting dummied against like real teams, So we played this kid in a freshman game, a JV game, and I'm a freshman. He's a freshman. I'm like, all right, I'm going to play this kid tough. Like, I'm going to hang with him. He dropped like 30 on me. And I played well. I think I had like 15, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. That's probably a lie. But somewhere like probably double, like 10 and 10, somewhere in that. So I held my own. So, but I still had my hands full and I was exhausted. So I'm warming up for the varsity game too, because you just played the JV game. And here comes the kid again. He's playing on varsity. All right. So then we get blown out. Varsity gets smoked. We go to garbage time again. Kid dropped 20 on me in the fourth quarter. So the kid had 50 points on me. It was a tough day, Chris. I took a charge. And he just about jumped over me, and he didn't. So I got everything right in the face, bro.
I got to see the footage of that.
Oh, my God. The nice thing is, Chris, you and I are old enough. There's not a lot of footage. So I knew my days were numbered, man. I'm like, I'm playing football. Like, I'm not different on this basketball court, but I'm different on the football field, at least in high school and college. A little bit different than the pros, as you know. But I digress. That was the max of my hoops career, and I stopped playing basketball like sophomore year. I regret it. I wish I would have stayed athletic and mobile and did all that. I was so football rigid, but scholarships were coming in, and I made that choice. Your recruitment out of high school, like, talk about your high school journey as an athlete, moving up through a little AAU, and then how you ended up at Canisius.
Well, I'll start from the top and work backwards. Canisius was my only legitimate offer coming out of high school. Now, I did garner a lot of interest. D2 offers, D1 interest, but Canisius was the one program that was always just pressing the issue, dating back to my sophomore year of high school. And at the time, I was hoping to garner a lot more interest, get a lot more offers, but when stuff hit the fan, Canisius was always there.
Yep.
So it ended up reaching a point to where maybe at the end of my junior year, I reached out to Canisius and said, hey, like, are you guys still interested? Scheduled a visit, went up to Canisius campus in Buffalo with my mom, and was pleased with the visit and committed, before I hopped on the plane back. So it was kind of a smooth, quick process for me. I was just so caught up in not, I didn't want to lose a scholarship offer. Being a kid from New York City, from the Bronx, like the opportunity to even get a scholarship offer, a free education, like that was huge to me. And I didn't want that to slip away. And I took the offer. I felt good about it. It was close enough to home. And I would have gotten to see my family quite frequently throughout college. So I figured it was a good fit. Throughout my high school career, I did really well. Started on varsity my sophomore year and just kind of climbed from there and created a name for myself just due to my style of play. And it's kind of synonymous with, my style of play on the football field in a way, just being a grinder, getting my nose dirty and just doing the dirty work, defending, rebounding, things like that. So I think that type of mentality kind of carried me throughout and up to this point, to be honest.
If you could mentor any of these young big men that are undersized for hoops, like you were, now that's from talking NBA, I'm not talking college. I'm talking NBA, right? Because you've now made a living and some, and had an amazing NFL career if you stop today and you're still going. Like advice to these guys in college that are like the power forward that are 6'7", huge hands, 6'8", long arms, right? That are, tough and they're grinders and they're open-minded. Like, what would you say to them? Because I think there's a lot of them now and it's more prevalent. Like, hey man, go play basketball.
Right.
I mean, go play football.
Right. You're talking about those that want to make the transition, or just
or just some of them that like are like not or some everyone. People don't realize they want to make the transition until we're going to get to how you made it. But I'm saying like these guys that are undersized, because I talked to so many guys, Chris. This is where I really have the question stemming from. So many kids are like, I'm going to play basketball. I say, great. You better be in the gym shooting 1,000 jumpers a day. I'm going to play in the NBA. I want to play at, Kansas. Great. Either you need to be lights out shooter at 6'4", or your handles need to be off the charts at 6'4", because and I don't know basketball, but I know that enough. Like unless you're going to be 6'10", there needs to be or go play football and be an anomaly. That's what I'm saying, because on a football field, right, I'm a little shorter than you. I have shorter arms than you. Like, you're way more gifted. So it's like, but on a basketball court, when you play Kentucky, they're more gifted than you. So I guess my point is like a message to those kids that aren't even considering that are players like you. Like, what type of, like, your life changed forever when you started playing football and you were like that tweener type of guy.
Right. I think a good part of it is being open-minded to begin with, being open-minded to the idea of maximizing your athletic potential. By no means did I ever even think that football was going to be on the radar. But once the opportunity kind of presented itself for me, one, I thought it was a joke initially. I wasn't going to turn it down either, because I didn't want to ever look back and say, you know what could have been, let me at least give it a shot, see what happens. What do I have to lose? If it doesn't work out, I could continue to pursue my basketball endeavors. So for me, it was just about being a little bit more open-minded, thinking outside the box, and being realistic with my situation. To your point, I don't know too many 6'5" centers, big man, in the NBA. I mean,
or college.
That is, I don't know, Charles Barkley, Draymond Green, that type of player. But those type of guys at least have a certain well-rounded package to their game. And based on my skill set at the time, I had to kind of be realistic with myself and knowing where my ceiling was, what that looked like. So in making that transition to football, for me, it was just playing the odds. I mean, how many people even get that shot that played football for their whole lives? It's a very minuscule number. So for me, I was like, you know what? I literally have nothing to lose. I'm going to give this thing a shot.
Mm-hmm. How did it work, man? Who reached out to you? And the hardest part about interviewing your friends is I know all these stories, but I need to draw them out and tell them again. And that's what I always struggle with talking to my boys. So, like, take me in. Like, your senior year, you're Canisius, you're playing. It's like, everything's happy-go-lucky, right? You finally get through all the BS. Your senior year in college is fun. You're in a couple classes, maybe, whatever. The grind was early on. You got a meal plan. You got school. It's cold in Buffalo. But your senior year, like, it's my senior year, I'm going to go out have fun. So take us through, like, your senior year, how it went, and then when's the first time somebody noticed you?
Well, senior year, I was quite busy because I tried to I ended up getting my master's degree, sneaking out a master's degree in the 4 years that I was there. So my senior year was, outside of the basketball stuff, it was kind of busy.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just so focused, even prior to graduating, because the opportunity came after I graduated. I was just so focused on, you know what, I'm going to do everything I can to put my name out there on the circuit, to play professionally overseas, to garner that interest. And I get a call one day from my head coach, and Russ Brandon, the president of the Buffalo Bills at the time, and Jim Munoz and Doug Whaley, the GM of the Buffalo Bills at the time, had reached out to my college basketball coach to see if I was interested in playing football, to see if I was interested in coming, doing a pro day type thing, running around, running routes, doing whatever. So I get called to my office, my basketball coach's office, and he's like, "Hey, have you ever thought about playing football?" I'm like, "You got to be kidding me! I don't. I mean, no, but I'm listening." He's like, "Well, the Bills want to work you out." I'm like, "Get out of here! Like, serious?" He's like, "Yeah, they want to work you out. I would encourage you to be open-minded about this, yada, yada, yada." And I was like, I probably took about 2 days to really think about it, talk it over with my parents. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that, again, not too many people even get the opportunity. Why would I turn it down? So I invested, maybe a couple weeks. It was around the draft at the time, but I invested a couple weeks to, learn how to run a 40, catch a few football, run routes, all of which was so foreign to me. I was just like, well, I hope they see something. I'm sure they know I'm a project and I need a little work. But, for me going into that, I was just like, I have to show them something. I have to show off my athleticism. I have to show off my God-given ability to hang their hat on something, to say, all right, there's something here, maybe, So I invested the time to learn about that, and I showed them enough during the workout for them to sign me to a futures contract, and started OTAs, and that's when the journey kind of began.
What was the hardest part early on for you in transition?
The mental, learning a playbook. I think a lot of people underestimate as athletes for us, like the level, and the level of what one might say is like the intelligence, the cognitive capacity to really process information, to learn a playbook, all of which was foreign to me because, I would consider myself a decent student, in school, but this was a whole other beast. I didn't even know how to study a playbook. Where do I start? What are formations? What's fronts? What's coverages? What, all of those things. So it was a bit overwhelming to begin with. And, I just took a minute just to slow down and try to get better at one thing or learn something new every day. And that type of mentality is obviously carried me beyond that time.
Absolutely. One of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL. I think the cognitive side of things, dude, oh man, it's everything. It's really everything. Like the best players are the smartest guys on the football field, like period. They learn the playbook the quickest. They line up the quickest. Like you could be slow, hand raised, and make a career for yourself because you know what? He's going to be in the right place at the right time. He's going to be accountable. He's going to hold people accountable. He's going to show up. All that stuff that, like, it's funny. We always talk about this. My one buddy in particular, I talk once a week with for about 30 minutes on the phone with. We go back and forth. And he doesn't play in the NFL. He's just a dad that I've connected with over the years from coaching. And he says, what do they miss on in the draft room? I'm like, they don't have access to these facilities. They don't know how these guys interact on a daily basis. He's like, why is half the league undrafted? I'm like, because like guys like Chris and I, like, say you play football at Canisius. They have a football team?
They do not have a football program.
So say you play, say that for some reason some guy was stalking you and like they knew like you're in your masters and they knew your cognitive ability, right? Like you can't really measure that. You could do a wonder like that doesn't measure it. It's like you got to be able to handle like what's going on in your personal life. Some coach yelling at you. You're physically extremely tired. It's the third walkthrough on the fourth day of training camp, and you're like, oh my God, I want to go back to the beach. Like what? So it's amazing. You see so many players, and I see it all the time in rookie minicamp because I think I broke the record for the most rookie minicamps of any player in the NFL. I think I've been to 10 of them.
Wow.
Pretty crazy because I only had 1 year, and until you had 1 year, you had to go to them.
Right.
But it gave me opportunities because I was able to go and perform. The more opportunities, that's neither here nor there. But I would see it with guys; they would emotionally crumble over the playbook, and I'd be like, "He's cut." You know right away. You know right away in the walkthrough of the first rep if the guy's cut or not. And it's crazy, man. Like just mentally, you work your whole life, and a lot of you're a basketball guy coming up football, but some of these football guys have been playing football their entire lives, and mentally, they just can't figure out the playbook, and it breaks them down.
Right. And I would probably say there's a plethora of things that contribute to that, whether it be your working habits. Are you working hard enough? Flat out. Are you putting the time in to learn whatever? Because it does take a good amount of time and diligence to do that. Right? How are you managing the stuff off of the field? Because we all have lives, we all have identities, we all are people off the field. How do we compartmentalize the two, disassociating what happens there and what happens on the football field, right? Routine, working habits, preparation. You mix that all together, and the results will speak for itself, good or bad.
Yep.
So I think it's a combination of all of that. But I think the biggest thing, I personally think that everybody has the ability to learn. Everybody just learns differently, right? So when it comes to a playbook, some guys are the flashcard guys. Some guys draw up plays. Some guys, like to walk through. Some guys like to visualize. There's a whole bunch of ways that you could accomplish the same thing. The biggest thing is just figuring out what works for you personally.
That you hit the nail on the head. That's what I was going to interject with. My career changed when I got to Carolina because, again, I was all over Giants, Bears, AAF, XFL. I went to so many workouts and mini camps trying to get in Detroit, New Orleans. I learned how to learn there. Like I learned how I take information in. I wish I would have done that in high school, Chris. I wish I would have. I would have been way quote unquote smarter, right? But now I'm like, I got the playbook. Now you're always gonna make mistakes. It happens. That's why I love football, because like mistakes are allowed. And coaches roll their eyes at that, but it's true. Coaches make mistakes all the time. Players make mistakes all the time. You go full speed. I learned that lesson too. Trying to be too perfect, not going full speed instead of just being like, screw it, right? You and I've seen some crazy fronts in duo. What's the look? How are we blocking it? Where's the receiver fit? I have haunting memories of doing that in New Orleans, not being able to hear in the snap count. And what's his name? Cam Jordan dumping me on my head to start the game, because I think Ian and I are going to work together, but really we're not. And it's a whole nightmare. And it's my fault because I didn't go, just pull the trigger. So I digress. I'm starting to sweat. It's making me go back to the Is that the loudest stadium you played in? I think it is for me.
New Orleans or probably the Seahawks.
Yeah, Seattle.
Yeah, pretty loud.
Seattle is unbelievable. It's just
just the way that the stadium is structured. I mean, it gets pretty loud.
It's cool. It was not
quite a bit.
Yeah, it was loud for a XFL game. We played 40,000 people there, and we had to go. We didn't practice silent cadence all week because the coach said, "Oh, it's XFL game." I'm like, "This is going to be a nightmare." We got smoked by whatever XFL long time ago. The first COVID case in the United States was in that XFL building that we know about.
Wow,
it was a vendor.
What?
Yeah, we're like, oh, whatever. You don't know. Right. I digress. All right, so Buffalo. Then you're with Buffalo, like. Talk about that. You get cut, then the next place, like how'd that go? Because I know it was like some awkward things there. You're trying to make the team, trying to learn the playbook. They let you go. How'd that go?
I didn't even get to play a preseason game for them. So when somebody asked me about my story, it's kind of like an asterisk next to Buffalo, because I didn't even get the opportunity to play a preseason game. Missed the first preseason game due to a rib injury. Not the best timing for an injury, being an undrafted guy that never played the sport. So kind of happened the way it did, and I got cut. And at that time, I'm here thinking, I'm like, well, gave it a hell of a run. I don't have any film. As you know, in the NFL, your film is your resume. That is the biggest body of work that somebody could go off of evaluating you, and I don't have that. So I was like, you know what? I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm going to still keep training. And I was training with one of my football mentors at the time, and he was connected to Jim McNally, who was connected to Sean Payton. Jim McNally if anybody knows football, he's probably, one of the best O-line coaches to ever grace the game of football.
Angelico's listening right now. Jim McNally's the best. Yep. Him and Bill Callahan.
Yep, they come from that same type of tree. So I was working out with my mentor, and he's blocking 9 techniques on a pad, and sent it to Jim McNally. Jim McNally sent it to Sean Payton. I'm like, well, what's the odds? Whatever. So worked out that Wednesday. He sent it to Sean Payton. Maybe about 8 hours later, I get a call from my agent saying that the New Orleans Saints wants to fly me in for a workout.
I did that.
So, I pack light. I'm like, I'm here thinking that I'm going to go there, work out, fly back home, whatever.
Dan Campbell, baby.
Yep. I fly over there. I work out. Workout obviously went great. And they told me off of Jump Street, we know your background. We know you're green. You are a project. And we're kind of thinking to put you on a practice squad. So they were pretty transparent up front in just the workout of itself. I just had to do my end of the bargain and kind of show them a trajectory of improvement. So they intentionally held me out of that preseason, all preseason games. I didn't dress, I didn't play because I probably would have got hurt because I didn't know what in the world I was doing.
That's awesome from them though, bro. And honestly, for you, that had to be a little bit of deep breath, no?
Yeah, it was definitely reassuring, but at the same time, it was kind of a good pressure in the sense of, all right, Chris, you do what you're supposed to do. Show these guys that you're improving week to week, and then the rest will take care of itself. So, in fact, fast forward to the following year, I have a year under me, rookie camp under me, a year of going against, the number one defense, me being on the scout offense, and that paid dividends for my development. And I came out kind of swinging the first opportunity I got to, really show them that following year, the improvements I made and et cetera. So I was able to make the 53-man roster off of that. And that was just kind of like a sigh of deep breath because I knew the amount of work that I had put in to even try to even get that shot.
Man, it gives me goosebumps, man. That's it. That's what it's all about, right? Like you bet on yourself and it happened. What was that feeling like? Call your parents?
It was kind of emotional because, you kind of take a moment to reflect. And I even remember the day that I found out I made the team. I didn't even know how it went when you made the team. I thought you get a call to make the team. The only time you're getting a call is if you're getting cut.
I got called a lot, Chris.
Yeah.
I only didn't get called. I only made one roster out of training camp, and it was your first year. Thank God you left, or I wouldn't have made it. But I got cut. I got cut 2020, and I made the roster the next day. But I did not get a call in 21. That was the only time in my career.
Yeah, and I remember calling my agent, and I'm like, and it's 4:00. I think the deadline is usually like 4:00, and I'm just looking at, my phone the whole day, just waiting for something. And it's 4:02, and I call my agent, and I say, hey, like, bro, nobody called me. He's like, congratulations, you made the roster. I was like, wow, all right, I did it.
Wow.
Because that was just a point in time where I was just like, just trying to figure out how this process even went. So it was definitely a blessing to, reach that milestone.
I was down there for a rookie minicamp. We had 2 days in rookie minicamp. Brutal. I was gassed. I wasn't on the team. They invited me in, and I thought I was going to make it. I think you were in Carolina at the time. Maybe you weren't. It's probably 2019.
I was in Carolina. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's my only shot at making these teams is Chris is gone. So I did well, man. I was blown away by Dan Campbell. 3 days with him, 5 different practices in 3 days. And I was like, man, I learned a ton. Like I learned a ton how to use my hips more, my body more. And I could see it more in your play. What was his impact on you?
Oh man, it was tremendous, especially being as green and as early out as I was in my career. At that point in time, being a basketball player that never played the sport, the good thing is that, and you might be able to attest to this, compared to somebody that's been playing it for a while, I've learned only one way on the highest level. I didn't get a chance to develop any bad habits at all. So having somebody like Dan Campbell that obviously established himself in the league, being a good tight end, did the time, even had head coach experience at the time, being in a room with him, the teacher that he is, the motivator that he is, it was completely a blessing to have that my first, second year in the league. And, his techniques and the way that he kind of illustrated things for you to understand is the one, I guess, distinguishing quality that kind of makes me kind of appreciate him on a different level, with all due respect to the other tight end coaches that I played with. But he is I have nothing but good things to say about Dan and his impact.
I think there's two different categories, right? There's like great tight end coaches, and then there's like great tight end coaches that played the game. And not just played the game, and people like you can still be a great coach and not play football, period. It's a proven entity.
Yep.
Right? You could be a great basketball coach and maybe not have played the game, but you could be a great, probably not business consultant. You need to make some mistakes in business to be a good business consultant. That's a poor example. But like Dan, he's so damn big. First off, he could play. He's just as big as you, if not taller. And he's just like, he can take what you do as a player and do it in a drill like no other coach ever. Like the hip stuff. I'm like, what?
Talk about demonstrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he was just like, we're going to be in the block and we're going to roll our hips through. And I want you to emphasize, like, okay, like, cool. I never do this. We like hit the bag this way. And that's another thing with the NFL too, which is a shame, is when I was in college, and this is where I would have a step above you. So, Foley from Carolina. Foley's my tight end coach at Temple. We would do Tuesdays and Thursdays, just drill work. And we have an hour of Indy. Shit you not, Chris. For an hour, we would just do inside, outside zone and duo footwork. Hour on a medicine ball. Guy would hold a medicine ball because you couldn't have shields. And I would just boom, boom. And just like a boxer, right? And like my footwork was like on the money then. It's and of course when you're NFL, you don't do it anymore because you're big time, but I should, but that's the thing about the NFL and college. You don't have the time, right? In college, you could roll in and shoot. You come back after your day's over in college and shoot 100 foul shots and go to bed. Like in the NFL, you go home and you have a life and things change. But I digress. So New Orleans, and then you move on to Carolina. What happened there? And then talk about your time in Carolina.
Was let go from New Orleans with intentions on bringing me back after waivers. And they kind of took that gamble. And I was anticipating to go back. But we have a waiver system in the NFL for guys like that early in their career. So I was claimed by the Panthers on waivers. Didn't really know anything about the Panthers outside of the fact that the year prior they went to the Super Bowl. So in my mind, I'm like, well, at least I'm going to a good team. At least a good team wants me. It's also good to feel wanted, somebody putting in a waiver for you, things like that. So I kind of went there with no expectations. I didn't know how long it would last. I didn't know what the thoughts or the plans were with me. I just knew that, they submitted a waiver to claim me. And when I got there, it kind of took maybe a couple weeks to get my bearings, but ran into another great coach, Pete Hayner, that is as old school as it gets. Straight shooter. Hard-nosed coach. He will keep it real with you. He's as old school as it gets. That type of coaching is not for everybody. I'll just say that. But that type of coaching kind of brought the best out of me. Just teaching me a lot of things, and also, being around guys like Greg Olsen, which in my opinion is a future Hall of Famer. Being in the room with him, learning from him, learning his habits, how he goes about his business, again, invaluable for somebody like myself that young in my career. I recall getting there and, maybe the first, second practice, I'm doing scout team stuff. And I have a great day, catching balls, just putting my talents on display. And I remember after the practice, my tight end coach came up to me and he said, "You know what? You really you got a bright future ahead of you. Don't screw it up. Flat out, just flatline.
And you're like the best guy in the world. You're not like these guys showing up hungover to whatever, or like not dialed in. Chris is like got his masters and is
right. But I'll never forget that, because that was kind of like, I wouldn't even call it a wake-up call because I was already dialed. But like, it was just a reaffirming reminder for me, like, there's people here that, kind of believe in my ability, whatever that looks like. Make the most of it.
Yep.
There's only a small window of time for you. Our careers, it only lasts, 3 years?
That's
The
it.
window is so small. You want to maximize it. You got to get as much juice out of that squeeze as you can. So that was my mentality. That always is my mentality. But that type of thing kind of, gave me a little confidence going into it that if I just work and buy in and soak in whatever knowledge is around me, it could only reap benefits.
Isn't that funny? Like sometimes the people in your life, actually, you know what? For me, almost all the time, other than probably Angelico, the people in your life that are hardest on you, like one of my high school coaches was brutal on me, man, but he made me who I am today. Maybe I was in the NFL. You look back, right? There's 2 or 3, maybe 5, 10 people that had like major impact on your life. Not just like drove you to practice impact, like had a ton of impact. And this guy named Mike Carey had a ton. I had other high school coaches, Steve Devlin that did too, but Mike Carey, man, he was ruthless. Benched me when I was a senior and All-American for a freshman. I played my ass off. We had a foot of snow, Chris. Played my ass off. He benched me. Said my effort wasn't good enough, right? Like drove me crazy, but he broke me, And then when I got to Temple, Coach Rule and Foley broke me again. Now we're obviously close, but broke me and made me the next phase of the player I was. And it's like, as a parent, which I'm transitioning to be, and you are, I'm not saying you got to be tough on your kids, and I'll never be. I don't know if I can. Of course I will be at times when it's needed, but it's like, I may get into coaching too when I'm done. I don't know. I'm going to give it one more year, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. Like, you got to be who you are, but it's like, sometimes you want to be the best. So if you want to be the best, you got to do stuff that's uncomfortable. And like, as a coach, I'm like, hey man, if I get into coaching, I'm going to be the relatable former player, Dan Campbell, little motivational, relate with the guys. But it's like, shit, the guys that are brutal, Belichick, Harbaugh, right? Like, go to college, like, go down the list. The coaches that are brutal, man, they're the ones that win. Like, it's tough. It's a tough balancing act. It's a really tough balancing act. Because Angelico was laid back, and he gave me confidence. And I played well for Brian in Minnesota this past year, and I play well from Carolina. I play with you guys. So, like, it's different. It's unique, but it's that fine line of like, and I want to hear your thoughts on that and unpack that a little bit with me, because I struggle with it.
Well, I think in hindsight, you kind of look back, right? And I don't think nothing bad ever came from me being outside of my comfort zone. Obviously, at the time, it's uncomfortable. You might get agitated. I thought my tight end coach was the biggest prick. I'm like, I try to go about my business the right way. Like, why is he such a prick?
Yep.
But time goes on and things happen, and you look back and you appreciate those type of things, because it kind of puts you in an environment to where you kind of had to readapt, maybe test your limits as a football player, as an individual, as a person. And you look back years later and you're like, I'm better because of that happening. So I think it's more of a mentality that should be embraced, especially like for younger athletes. Obviously, being a parent, I can't wait for that. I don't know if I'll coach my kid or what have you, but
you will.
I intend on being hard on my child for as I see fit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But those type of things, as a player, I could even put it to this system that I'm learning right now in year 10 with the New York Giants. This is a system that's completely foreign to me. This is probably the first time in my career, and I've been on quite a few teams where at least there's kind of overlap. Conceptually, verbiage, things like that. This system is completely taken from the Patriots. Tom Brady, that type of tree, that type of system.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that looks like, but I know what it looks like now, and it's it is a task to recall, to do those things. But again, if I could sit back and say, man, here's a kid that never played football and he got it, what makes you think I can't do it again? I have the tools. It's just about drilling. So it's just about those habits that we spoke about in the beginning.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff there. We could do a whole show on that. Chris is Friend, mentor, someone I looked up to as a player. Year 10, I hear you say that, man. What a cool thing. My mind started racing down so many different things. Chris played for Carolina, got a deal with Jacksonville, played for Jax, then went to, holy cow, Denver, sorry. Signed a deal with Denver. I remember texting McGlinchey and Burton, all my boys there, telling them you got a great one in Chris, and now the Giants, to speed through all that, because I know we're getting kind of to the point here. We need to wrap things up because Chris and I could talk all day. But all day. And we'll just, Chris and I, maybe we'll just be a monthly thing. It's great. So it's always a tough question because I try to pull it out and it's a broad one, but let's go on the field first and we'll go off the field. I know you met your wife through football, but what are some on the field memories that you have throughout your career where you look around and you're like, holy shit. And I'll give you some time to think about it because I'm going to tell mine because you were there. I've had a couple and we've shared a couple together. Which is special and makes us, you bonded differently, I think, than most and brought us closer. But so I'm going to ask you on the field and off field. It could be anything. It could be a touchdown, could be a catch, could be a moment where you remember and look up and say, holy shit, mine was this. One of them that just popped into my head. We were at Minnesota, which was the best game of my NFL career. I was sick, didn't feel good at all. I didn't have COVID, but felt horrible. That's when we were getting tested every day. And we lost. Jeremy Chin scored back-to-back plays. Defensive plays. Nuts. Scored back-to-back plays, guys. I think he had a fumble recovery and then a pick six, whatever that was. It was end of the game. We were running out the clock. And there were certain packages where I'd go in and take a hit off Chris and Ian pretty much. So it was any split zone I would go in on where I'm running across and ramming my head into the DN on the other side. Because it was all about like Chris was playing 30 reps. I'm playing like 15. Ian was playing like, well, sometimes more depending on what we were doing, whatever. I remember being out in the field and it was like, right, we're running the clock, so it's like timeout. So I'm standing in the middle of the field for like a minute, right? We go to commercial. Then you run the play, and it's like timeout. Then it goes to commercial. And we're in Minnesota. It's an empty stadium in COVID, and I'm the only tight end on the field. You guys are off the field. It was single tight end set, whatever. I remember being like, wow, I'm one of 32 right now. Like one of 32 tight ends in the NFL can be standing on this field. And, of course, there's different packages and all that stuff. But I've never thought about that. I've never been emotional about that. I've never nothing. Like, Chris knows me. I want to I'm the best sideline guy in the world if I'm not playing. It's all about the guys. I love the team aspect. I love the boys. But for that one moment, I was like selfish and it had nothing to do with you guys. It was just like, wow, I'm on this field by myself right now. Like somebody trusts me enough to come do my job. And so that was a moment for me where I'm like, wow, I'm really grateful for this. Now there's team stuff, play action pass. We ran duo and Curtis Samuel. We have a bunch of those together. There's stuff with Ian. I've had all over XFL. So that gave you time to think about it. You're on the field stuff. Any memories that stick out for you?
Yeah, my biggest memory was probably my first touchdown. It's Panthers versus the Saints versus my former team.
Mm-hmm.
It's Monday Night Football. We're 4th and 1 on the 50-yard line. And what are the odds, right? Probably going to try to run some type of QB sneak, some type of, gut play or.
Who was the quarterback?
The quarterback that threw me the touchdown was Christian McCaffrey. Ironically. But the quarterback was Cam Newton at the time. 4th and 1, Monday Night Football. Can't remember the score. But, kind of had a little fake pop pass type thing, fake power halfback pass. Christian McCaffrey threw me the ball, and I took it 50 yards to the house on Monday Night Football. That was probably like the best a first cut touchdown could ever get, So that was like a full circle moment for me. You kind of reflect after the game, like, okay, I got my first touchdown, but the manner in which it happened is quite memorable.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think it's our intro to the show, and I've worked on the show so many times producing it. My first touchdown is there too, and Ian's first, your second, like that's something I'll never forget too. It was on a similar play, pop pass, 7 yards.
Yeah, in the red area.
Yeah, it was sell it duo, whatever. Good memories nonetheless. All right, off the field. For me, there's a bunch of them, right? Just something that popped in my head. We had a Kenny Chesney concert. You were gone. But Kenny Chesney concert, which he's actually playing back here like mid to late April again in Carolina. But neither here nor there. I'm a big Kenny fan. And we were backstage and we partied all day. It was like right after COVID ended. The coaches are coming. It was a party up in the Tepper's box, Mr. Tepper's box, and down on backstage, on the stage for Boys That Fall. Like, I was like, holy cow, I made it, right? Like, this is incredible. Football created so many great things for me. There's something off the field that you did. The NFL broadcast boot camp was incredible. Something off the field to you that stick out that, the NFL and football or even basketball maybe provided for you.
Man, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind with the off the field stuff, I mean, forget all the workshops and stuff. It's my babies.
I knew
my kids. It's having getting married, having my 3 beautiful babies, Chris Jr., Mason, and Mila. That's my reason. Throughout your career, you kind of redefine what that reason looks like because it doesn't look the same the whole time. My reason in year 1 was, 1, to prove myself right. My reason in year 10 is still that, but I have I'm a husband, I'm a father, so it kind of branches out and you kind of wear a bit more hats this time around.
I love it. I thought you were going to say, so sweetie, if you're listening, Sydney, you're my answer too. Chris just made me look horrendous. Chris met his wife through the NFLPA. So let's remember this. She was in the PA, right?
She was not in the PA. She was working. The PA was a client of her.
There you go.
The firm that she was working with that week. So kind of full circle. But here we are.
So how you like in New York? I know you're like traveling a lot. A lot of people in OTAs, guys, just so everybody knows, like, Chris is in that extended stay. I probably stayed right in that bedroom 7-8 years ago. Your Monday to Thursday with an NFL franchise. Dude, when I was there, and I loved McAdoo, loved him with Carolina. I hated when I was a rookie with the Giants. And this is not why. He just ripped my ass all the time. Like I said, probably a good coach, and I needed it. We went Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
That
was criminal.
That's messed up.
It was criminal. And rookies, we went all day Wednesday.
Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't care. I'm in the league. Whatever. I could have worked 24/7 at that point. But how you like in New York? How you like the organization, man? They were first class. I had emergency appendectomy with them. That's how I got cut. I played 1 preseason game. I played 5 or 6 plays, and the next morning I woke up and got cut. I was back there for rookie minicamp like 3-4 years later.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, first class place.
Yeah, first class organization, conveniently located 30 minutes from where I grew up.
So
and
cool,
it's
man.
Cool. I think the only difference between now, obviously before, is me playing home. And I'm sure that'll come with a host of different things that I probably haven't experienced yet. But I think it's also kind of good for the family to see. You know how the NFL season is. Like, it's so busy. I'm close to home, but you're so engulfed in football to where it doesn't feel like you're close.
No.
So I think that's a thing that a lot of people will start to realize because it's a full-time job. It's a full-time job that requires a lot. And obviously I have a family too. So I mean, between that and family, I don't think there's probably like this much space for other stuff. So
we got you on the pod today for like an hour. It's amazing. But
I mean,
the
my
day's
family's
over.
in Charlotte, so I have all the time in the world.
That's what I figured. I'm like, oh, we're getting Chris on during OTAs. He's gonna be by himself in an extended stay. I think there's Steve Sizzling Steaks or something right around the corner. Okay, I think it's like New York strips. Good steaks, man. Good steaks. I like it. It's old school. It's like an old school steakhouse, not like hoity-toity, but like old school Jersey steakhouse. Other than that, man, I was gone. That's another thing, dude. You're constantly like with family. I was a rookie. I couldn't handle it. You know, I'm like, I got it. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Every weekend, I'm down Jersey Shore. I'm at home. I'm running around. I'm getting back to New York at like 10 o'clock at night with OTAs the next day. Like, it's just chaos. It's just
it's a lot.
You're trying to make it work. You're trying to live out your dream. You made it. And so, Gov, I appreciate your time. Get in the playbook, man. Are you a flashcards guy?
Most definitely.
I am not. I
haven't done this in years, but I think this warrants. I used to record myself, get a script, record, myself as if I'm the quarterback, say the whole play, and have it on a loop. I could visualize, I could hear it. You know, it's not in the tone of my quarterback's voice, but I can hear it. I could visualize it. I can listen to it in the car on the drive there. I could just visualize everything, and it helps so much.
Listen, kids, that is a grown ass man giving advice there. That's good stuff, man. Chris Manhertz, 10-year NFL veteran, great man, great friend, great dad. Thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate it, brother.